The Trump administration is lying to you. And over the past several days, Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance have listed at least four critical falsehoods that the American public need to know about. And it's up to the United States media in this moment to call out what we're seeing from the White House. Because lies aren't a partisan issue. Lies are lies. And so let's talk about all four falsehoods that this administration has launched over the past 72 to 96 hours in an effort to distract you and the American electorate from what's actually happening in our nation. The first major falsehood is that over $17 trillion have been invested in the United States of America. On Tuesday of this week, Donald Trump told reporters that, quote, over $17 trillion had been invested in the United States since he took office on January 20th earlier this year. On Friday, he claimed that that number had, quote, just cracked $18 trillion. At first glance, that number is impressive. That claim would be very impressive for a president to bring in 17 to 18 trillion dollars in investments in the United States of America since Trump took office. But upon even just minimal scrutiny, Trump's claim falls apart. Because first, the White House's own website lists that there have been only about $8 trillion in total investments since Donald Trump took office. So let's slash that 18 million, 17 million to 8 million. That's a greater than 50% reduction in what the President of the United States told reporters just off on its face. But even that $8 trillion is actually inflated because it includes commitments that came from Donald Trump's first term 10 years ago and several unfulfilled commitments that have come this term that are set to be fulfilled over the next several years, but may very well not be fulfilled. Many of the supposed investments are just pledges. They're not actually finalized projects, and others were initiated years ago or were already in motion long before Donald Trump took office on January 20th. Independent analyses by CNN and Midas Touch and others have reviewed these claims and found no credible data to support them, because the actual amount of new and confirmed investments under the Trump-Vance administration appears to be much lower than what the president has claimed. For example, $600 billion from, quote, EU firms, even though the European Union has made clear that this is merely an estimate of upcoming potential private investment. Or, quote, $1.4 trillion from the United Arab Emirates, even though this is just a vague pledge that is more than double the size of the entire gross domestic product for the UAE. Or $500 billion coming from India, even though that's the goal for bilateral trade, not Indian investment in the United States. This exaggeration isn't harmless. It's part of a larger pattern in which the administration is actively manipulating data to create the illusion of economic success, even as the stock market remains volatile, foreign investment slows, and the federal deficit continues to grow. And in this moment, we need media willing to call out these lies, and I will never stop, so please consider subscribing to support my work. Second falsehood. 274 FBI agents were part of the January 6th rioters. Donald Trump has revived one of his most dangerous conspiracies to date, that the January 6th insurrection was orchestrated by federal agents. This week, just today, he claimed that 274 FBI agents were among the rioters at the U.S. Capitol, calling it a, quote, inside job by what he referred to as the, quote, Biden FBI. The statement on its face is false. On January 6, 2021, Donald Trump was still president. The FBI director was Christopher Wray. That's a man that Donald Trump appointed. The Justice Department was led by Donald Trump's administration. There was no Biden FBI. 10 months ago, the Department of Justice's Inspector General released a detailed report finding that hundreds of FBI agents went to the United States Capitol not to join the rioters, but to assist the overwhelmed Capitol response and to respond to explosives found near both major party headquarters. The report clearly concluded that there was, quote, no evidence that undercover FBI agents participated in the riot or helped incite violence. Despite this, the president continues to repeat the lie, using it to discredit investigations and to rewrite the history of a day when his supporters violently attempted to overturn an election. It's not a casual misstatement. It's an attempt to erase responsibility and redirect blame towards the institutions charged with protecting American democracy. By continuing to spread falsehoods about the January 6th insurrection, the administration is actively fueling distrust in law enforcement, undermining accountability, and keeping the country divided over events that were already well documented by a bipartisan congressional report and court testimony. Falsehood number 3: Portland is a war zone. This week, Donald Trump told reporters that Portland looks like a post apocalyptic movie. He claimed that there were fires all over the place, that retailers had abandoned the city, that they don't even have sewers anymore, and that most of the stores were boarded up. None of that is true. Local reporting and live footage from Portland directly contradict the president's description. Businesses are open, infrastructure is functioning, and the city continues to recover from the same economic challenges faced by other major urban areas. What makes this claim alarming, though, is that Donald Trump's rhetoric has real-world consequences. His exaggerated inflammatory language is used to justify federal crackdowns that local leaders are saying is making the situation worse. And in the past week, a Trump-appointed federal judge, Judge Karen Immergut, said that Donald Trump's statements are, quote, untethered to the facts, a rare public rebuke from a judge appointed by the same administration, same president, making this claim. This kind of language isn't just misleading, it's dangerous. Calling American cities war zones paints ordinary citizens as enemies and creates justification for federal overreach. Finally, the fourth misstatement: Chicago is a war zone. It's not. The president and vice president have repeatedly described Chicago in similar terms, portraying it as a city on the verge of collapse. They've cited, quote, rampant lawlessness as the reason for deploying federal troops to the city, including units from ICE equipped with military-grade vehicles. Local officials have pushed back strongly. Now, Judge Perry, a judge in Illinois, issued a federal ruling writing that the administration's perception of events in Chicago is simply unreliable. She said no credible evidence of rebellion exists in Illinois, nor any reason to believe that the state was unable to enforce federal law on its own. Her decision made clear that the administration's narrative of a city under siege was based strictly on politics, not on facts. Folks, these four examples are not the only falsehoods coming from the Trump-Vance White House, but it's clear that their communication strategy treats truth as negotiable and puts public trust expendable. Every false statement chips away at the credibility of our institutions, from the Justice Department to the courts to the press. When the public cannot trust official data, verified reports, or the words of elected officials, democracy itself weakens. The Trump-Vance administration may want to shape reality through repetition, but the truth remains stubborn. Facts can be verified, lies will be exposed, and democracy can endure if we remain vigilant enough to defend it. And as a reporter, I will never stop fighting for the truth. So please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing today, because this is important.